love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball, So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and David Rhodes. He's the lead host for the Wednesday independent version of the show. I have Charles and Big Mike in for the regular Tuesday and Thursday show. With that being said, as we get started, welcome to episode 622 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small. From the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics, to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. In short, we call it the HBCU sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta, along with my co-hosts, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and David Rhodes. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer. It's multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, let me welcome you all three gentlemen into the show. Mike Washington, Big Mike, as you like to be called, which I'm still trying to figure out all these years. How you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I don't know why what you're trying to figure out.
I forgot. Yeah, I forgot. It's the big muscles. I forgot.
I'm big brother, right? I'm big brother. I'm big dude. I don't care how far tall I am in stats. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, you're right. You're right. You showed.
Don't have me Kendrick Lamar you. Don't have me go Kendrick Lamar on you.
Yeah, you're right. I don't want none of that in my life right now. You so right. Charles, let me go to you.
It's good to see you, brothers.
Big Mike.
No, it's good to see you, brothers. It's good to be back in the lab as always. Mr. David, CB as always. And paying attention to looking at basketball, man. It's the wheat and the chaff. It's starting to separate a little bit. So I'm sure we'll get into that. So I'll pass that on.
That is true, and we certainly will get into that. With that being said, let me go to Charles Bishop. How you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Let me see if my jaws are working a little bit today. I had a little dental work today, so we're going to try to grit and bear through it. So,
yeah, don't get too excited. That's what gets you in trouble. As long as you level, you fine. You get excited, you get into it, and you open a little too wide, you're like, yeah.
10-4. Exactly.
David, how are you doing today?
Doing good, man. I survived Buffalo, so I can't complain one bit. My goodness, it was cold that weekend, man. It was cold.
I believe it. Well, today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting, educational, and consulting data analytics. With that being said, let me say thank you for everybody that sent birthday wishes to me yesterday, as I had another trip around the sun, as folks like to say, adding a year, and we're going to see if we can start it over to make it again. With that being said, I'm excited to continue this journey we call life, and just wanted to again say thank you to everybody that wished you happy birthday. I'm mad at Big Mike, Charles Bishop. They didn't offer me no wine from Big Mike.
We got to get to the weekend.
We got to get it in. You know we got to get this in on the weekend.
Yeah, I was like, man, these folks don't. I know y'all busy. Don't get me wrong. And preparing for Valentine's Day, I know that is quite important.
That's why you're going to lose, Doc. You ain't getting no wine this weekend.
David, I understand you. You all in Buffalo, quite a bit Rhode Island, quite a bit away. So I give you a little. These two guys, they live around the corner, as we like to say in these parts.
No, we're gonna get it in, and when we get it in, we get it in. So.
Oh, that's for sure. All right, we good. No, that's all I need to hear. As long as I know the record stands, we in good shape. Appreciate it.
Yes, indeed.
With that being said, let me start with you, Charles. So we pause you as you trying to get through the dental work, as they say today. What's hot and heavy on your mind for news of the day?
Well, I'm sure a lot of people came across this, and this was seen last week on Radio Row about Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter. He recently did the media rounds at the Super Bowl, and the topic of his time at Jackson State came up, and of course, he mentioned during the interview, from a standpoint, I think the question was, does Jackson State get to say that they have a Heisman Trophy winner? And Travis, without fail, definitely. His quote was, that's where I started off at. I wasn't in college yet. I had to go to college and find out. I went to Jackson State. So, the interview went on to talk about, him spurning Florida State to come to Jackson State. And I remember where I was that day when the text started going out, and I said, nah, this is not about to happen. But that was a momentous day, if you were a Jackson State fan, that the number one recruit decided to come to an HBCU and to come to Jackson State. So.
Yeah, in a lot of places, it was big for HBCU fans in general. I thought that was certainly a cool interview. And as you said, when he talked about Heisman Trophy, we said it early, and to hear him confirm it, I think that's a huge statement in and of itself.
And I want to say this, those guys, they do not hesitate whatsoever, whether it's Shador, Travis, or any of those gentlemen that went up to Colorado. They do not hesitate to talk fondly about their time at Jackson State, their time within the HBCU. So if you're fanning the flames of dissent in that regards, that's on you. It's silliness. So I just wanted to put that out there. I stand on that. Those guys have always talked positive of their experience at HBCU.
Great. Good deal. Thank you, Mary 305. Big Mike, your thoughts? HBCU thoughts of the week, Day. What do you have?
Yeah. And just for the record, I got your shot waiting on you. You can't get by me without taking shots, son. What you doing?
Charles, you see, I tried to play it off with some wine. You add another year, you kind of slow down. Mike,
we know what time it is. So.
You know the deal. So
yes,
anyway, and David,
and
you messed up, David, by joining us, because I will bully you into a shot.
Oh,
hey, look, I'll take them. I don't discriminate when it comes to shots. You ain't got to worry about that, my man. You ain't got to worry about that.
In Atlanta, but I think he was crossing. We just leaving. He came in, and so I'm not sure if we had a chance to punish you and have you enjoy it. I heard you went to A&T, so y'all do it well over there, and you part of that juice crew. What,
did they have a faction or something at FAMU that wasn't about that life? Or I don't know that. All right.
See, all that shade, that unnecessary shade.
All of it. What you got, Mike?
All right. So HBCU, there's an HBCU that becomes the home to the Black Sportswriters Hall of Fame. This comes to us from HBCU Game Day. Hall of Fame sports writer Rob Parker is bringing the Black Sportswriter Hall of Fame to the HBCU campus of North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, North Carolina A&T. The inaugural class will honor 3 of the nation's respected sports writers in a special induction ceremony, supported by, of course, the North Carolina A&T student chapters of the National Association of Black Journalists and the Association of Sports Editors. The event will take place Saturday, April 12th, 6 p.m. in the Dees Ballroom in the Student Center, 1403 John W. Mitchell Drive. A&T students, I think that address may mean something, but that's neither here nor there. Inductees include William C. Roden, columnist for ESPN's Handscape, former New York Times sports columnist and NABJ Hall of Famer and member Claire Smith, the first woman in the writers' wing of the Baseball Hall of Fame, known for her work at Hartford Courant, the New York Times, and the Philadelphia Inquirer. Big load there, but big list. And last but not least, my man in my Denzel voice, Mike Wilbon, a former columnist for the Washington Post and the co-host of ESPN's Pardon the Interruption, of course, as you know. So they had so many black sports writers and editors who have contributed to the business of big time and should be recognized, said Mr. Parker. I think is that the students, and this is really a big thing, of North Carolina A&T will get a chance to meet these legends face to face and be inspired for that next level of journalism excellence. And it goes on to say that, you know, the Hall of Fame inductee, the 2023 NABJ Hall of Fame inductee, developed the idea for the Hall of Fame after delivering a baseball writing masterclass at the Greensboro, North Carolina HBCU in the spring of 2023. Sounds like he may have talked to Dr. Cavil, but we'll go there. Impressed by the students and the journalism program, reached out to the Department of Journalism and Mass Communications lecturer David Squires for assistance in basically making this thing happen. So this is a tremendous event, fellas. I like that it's actually going to an HBCU, and the students will have a part to be, you know, to join in this legacy. So big deal. Congratulations to North Carolina A&T as well.
Yeah, it's really nice. See, Charles, I tried to set you up. I tried to set David Rose up, and Mike just be like, "Nah, I won't."
Nah, he ruined it all. All right. No, but I know A&T is normally known for their engineering and their STEM programs, but they graduate more black journalists than any other school in the country.
Yeah, go figure, David. They are known for STEM and engineering, but here they are, you know, a journalism. I think that stood out for them.
Yeah, Department of Journalism, Mass Communication. Seriously, great job. With that being said, Dave, what's on your mind? Since Mike took your.
Nah, you know what? I'm gonna roll with the SWAC, man. I'm gonna announce the bowling I'm gonna announce the fact about the co-champs, because you know everybody talks about nobody has co-champs, but it looks like the SWAC has co-champs in women's bowling. So you know, Alabama State Southern named SWAC bowling regular season co-champions.
That was good.
That was real good.
The Alabama State Hornets and the Southern Jaguars both claim shares of the 2025 SWAC bowling regular season title. On Sunday at Cypress Lanes, the two teams finished their regular season competition with identical 21-7 overall records. Jackson State placed in third place, 19-9. Alabama A&M placed in fourth place, 18-10. And Prairie View placed in fifth, 16-12, to round out the top five finishers in the regular season final team standings. Alabama State was led by freshman Jenna Knight, who averaged 196.32 pins in 28 games played. Southern was led by Jalen Rogers, who completed regular season competition with a 192.75 average in 28 games played. The title marks Alabama State's first regular season title since the 2018 seasons. The Jaguars claimed their third consecutive regular season crown, having also won titles at the conclusion of the 2023 and the 2024 season. So shout out to Alabama State and Southern. Maybe we'll see you in the playoffs.
Nice. I like that.
See you in the postseason.
He found a way to point it back over there. I like that. Good job, Dave. Good job. And with a little push at the front saying co-champ.
I like that.
I'm going to get in and talk a little bit of baseball since we have the Cactus Jack coming up this weekend to kick things off in this side, but all around college baseball, it kicks off this week. The northern teams oftentimes come down south. You get a couple of early college classics, and one that Cactus Jack that is held over and put on by the Astros should be big. Obviously, you have 6 teams participating in that over 3 days. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can go to Astros, those in the Houston area that want to check out the events. You have Prairie View, Texas Southern, co-hosting, if you would, Texas schools coming in. You got Grambling and Southern, next door neighbors in the state of Louisiana. And then you pick up Alabama, state of Alabama this year with Alabama A&M, and you bring back Jackson State out of Mississippi as well. So it should be a big event. The reason I wanted to bring this up a little bit is talk about, guess what? The SWAC baseball preseason poll came out. What's intriguing about this year folks may not quite realize this yet, other than those baseball heads that have kind of talked about that and heard this kind of sneak out some ways. There are no longer divisions being played in baseball. So just like basketball, where you list all 12 teams, men's and women's, first to second, you do that for baseball this year, and that means the schedules will have open for all teams to play. You won't play a full schedule with every team, but you won't play just division teams. You'll play what previously we would have called crossover. So now you get a full slate of games where you'll play several teams in that 10-game schedule, if you would. 10 series schedules, I should say. But let's look at the top 4 teams first, looking at that order in terms of that, and then we'll go next 4 and the bottom 4. But let's start from ascension. I'm going to start at the bottom so we can kind of get to number 1. Number 12 is Mississippi Valley. Number 11 is Alcorn State. At number 10 is Alabama A&M. At number 9 is Arkansas Pine Bluff. So 2 of the bottom 3 would be previously out of the East Division. But if you split it, 2 and 2 from East and West in terms of the bottom 3rd. Next, 4, go Prairie View at 8, Texas Southern at 7. That's the Texas schools there. Based on this, we'll just get into the tournament. 6 is Southern, and FAMU is 5 in terms of these early season records. So you have 3 teams out of those 4 that would have been in the West Division. Top 4, Alabama State, Jackson State, Bethune-Cookman. Number 1 is Grambling. Grambling would previously come out of the West. They won it last year. But the next 3 teams out of the East, or you could say 4 of the top 5 out of the East, are some of the things that stuck out to me. Well, we got a moment here before we take that first break and get into the poll rankings. Let me just go around for the baseball heads here. Everybody represents a baseball institution. We have 5 programs outside of the SWAC. 4 of them play out in the Northeastern Conference. You have A&T with baseball. That's in the Coastal. So 12 of the SWAC and 5 outside of that. 17 Division I HBCU baseball programs exist at this time. Heard rumbling that Tennessee State is talking about bringing back baseball. Little stuff out there, maybe about South Carolina State. See how true that is. It'd be fascinating to see if we can grow baseball. As you've seen at the we refer to as the mid-major level, particularly NAIA programs, we've seen a lot of those kickstart baseball programs. So interesting what that looks like. Some of them started the last couple of weeks. But go to you, Charles. What sticks out to you in terms of this predicted order of finish for 2025 baseball season, now that we have all 12 teams listed from 1 to 12 or 12 to 1?
I think what jumps out for me is you take a look at Grambling and Bethune-Cookman 1 and 2. I think Bethune-Cookman is going to be one of those teams that you're going to really have to keep an eye on. They got arms. When you talk about Tanner Bocabello and Pablo Torres in terms of what they get done on the mound. So, and we know, once we get to tournament time, it's about having that pitcher staff. But just looking up and down in this conference, you have really good draftable guys. When you're talking about Jordan McClatty, when you're talking about Juan Lazo with Texas Southern, Jaden Jones is another one, great looking prospect. But you got a lot of good bats in this playing baseball out at Prairie View. Both Michael Burrows and Michael Smith, those guys can flat out play. So it's going to be really fun, really interesting, starting to get into baseball season this upcoming weekend.
Exactly. Mike, let me go to you. Let me give you this update. As I said, number 1, Grambling State, they had 7 first-place votes. Bethune-Cookman had 3 first-place votes. Jackson State was 3rd, but they didn't get any first-place votes. Alabama State got a first-place vote. FAMU 5th got 2 first-place votes. Southern got a first-place vote. And then you go all the way down to Arkansas Pine Bluff with a first-place vote. And then you got the 11th ranked team, Alcorn State, with a first-place vote. That's going to drive some people like Brian and Charles Edmond crazy, but that's a whole different discussion. But with that being said, Mike, anything?
You beat me to it. I was going to talk about that.
Like, who did that? Who did that?
I want to know who did it.
I want to know who did it too.
It's kind of like the NFL MVP. You need to give me the names of who voted for who.
I like it.
Of everybody.
I like that. I like that. Release the hounds. Yeah. Mike, what are your thoughts?
A couple of quick things. If you're as far as the classic, Cactus Jack Classic, if you manage to get FAMU in there, you got the last 7 champs of the SWAC baseball year. If you get FAMU in there, the other thing is I understand Grambling because they won it last year. Okay, they have some returning, they have some starters. Their bats woke up last year. If you look at the top 5, probably minus Grambling State, you've got the teams that have led slugging percentage and batting average the last 8 years. Bethune, Jackson, Pam. You take Grambling, just to be honest, from what I've seen, has come on here late, but man, are they playing. So you look at that. The Bodie, and then you had Southern, and I think Southern is a 2021 or 22 champ, 21, I think, as well, and they're rounded out. So you look at the top 4 or 5, you got those teams that are good. I am a little surprised that Alabama State is not higher because typically they have the best pitching staff, but that didn't benefit them last year. But historically, Alabama State's pitching staff has been par excellence. But I expect some big things from Bethune as well, whose pitching staff is pretty deep as well. So those are the thoughts that kind of stand out a little bit.
Obviously, Dukes and I are going to try to get over Bethune Cookman and catch a series this year. It'll be fascinating. They do come to Texas. Dukes has striked up a good friendship with the baseball coach over there. Coach Rodriguez getting it done in so many ways. Fascinating in terms of what he does. Can they finish and get over that hump? Much like we've seen Alabama State over the years. At one time, it was Prairie View trying to go over the hump. Even Texas Southern when they finally did it. Grambling over many moons. Even Alcorn State has snuck in over the last 20 years to get in there. So it's fascinating to see what that looks like, to see where it's going. With that being said, David, what are your thoughts in terms of SWAC? You're going to get A&T to some preseason games against some of the East teams in the SWAC. I know everywhere else would be quite a bit financial to get teams over there, but maybe Alabama A&M, Alabama State or something, Bethune-Cookman.
I would love to see us play some of the teams in the SWAC, man. Like, absolutely. I know we're gonna play some of the formerly MEAC, the NEC schools, because I believe we have Delaware State on the schedule, and historically we play Maryland Eastern Shore as well. We do a series with both of those teams, but I'm pretty sure we're just playing. Yeah. Pretty sure we're playing Delaware State this season. They typically come down to Greensboro, but for A&T, I think I'm hoping they can make the postseason, the CAA postseason. We'll see. But however, with this, the big thing I've noticed with the standings in the preseason poll is that it looks like there's 5 teams that has a legitimate shot to win this thing, and then you have Southern as like a dark horse, which is going to be fascinating to watch throughout the season.
I agree with that. that. Those Texas schools falling back a little bit. Be interesting to see can they get some momentum and push forward. That being said, let's take our first break. We'll come back on the other side, and it's time to unveil the top 5. First, we'll look at the women's side of the major division and see are there any changes, what's going on the women's side of Dr. Bill's 2024-2025 HBCU Major Division Women's Basketball Poll Rankings in week number 6. We'll be right back after this first break.
Planning an event? From weddings to corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC brings over 15 years of experience to make your vision a reality. Based in Metro Atlanta and serving statewide, even internationally, we provide versatile event planning and authentic catering cuisines tailored to your needs. Whether it's pregame meals for student athletes, fundraisers, weddings, corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC is your one-stop solution for exceptional service and unforgettable food. Our diverse culinary heritage means we cater to all cultural tastes, dietary needs, and food restrictions, making every meal uniquely yours. Let's make your next event unforgettable. Visit us on all social media at CMJ Events LLC or email us at cmjeventsllc@gmail.com. Also give us a call at 404-664-3882 so that we can start planning now.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app. as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and David Rose. The professors are in the building. Let's look at the top 5 in week number 6 with the women. Nobody dropped out of this week, so the top 5 is really solidified in the women's. But what is fascinating as we get to it, we'll see that some teams have moved around in the top 5. But that being said, let's see who's in the mix receiving votes. Can anybody continue to push forward and get a little more hot in terms of what it takes to get into that top 5? Howard Bison, they bounced back after that Norfolk State and have won 2 straight, so they improved to 6-1. Alabama A&M Bulldogs had a chance to push forward, maybe jump in the top 6, but they lost a tough matchup this past weekend, so they fall to 8-3. That matchup was against Southern. Coppin State, the Eagles at 5-2. Grambling State Tigers at 6-5. After a great season last week, they just can't quite get a couple of wins in a row to really get things going, so they floating right at above 500. With that being said, let's look at the top 5, those superlative teams. At number 5, North Carolina A&T, 9-2. The Eagles lost their last game. They're still
Be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful.
They still leading the Coastal, but they just have a 1-game lead now, which is the question I have for Dave. Can they push forward and find a way to get that regular season championship in the Coastal? I like to see when he breaks down the top 5. They do drop 2 spots after that loss, 9-2 this season. At number 4, you have the Southern Jaguars. They got the big win over Alabama A&M, essentially another top 10 team, which has propelled them up a spot at 9-2 at 63 points. They just slide up just a little bit. At number 3, you have Jackson State Tigers, who also slide up a spot. They improved to 9-2 as they are rolling, 61 points. At number 4, previously number 4, I should say. At number 2, Texas Southern Tigers go to 11-0, undefeated in the conference, playing some good basketball. They've beaten those 2 other teams in the top 5, which really has solidified them. And they've added a first-place vote. The first-place vote that the Aggies had, they lost, and it went to Texas Southern in terms of them slipping to number 5. With that being said, number 1, Norfolk State Spartans. Didn't play this week, so it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back. They're solid at 7-0, and they still have those 2 SEC wins in the bank, which kind of helped them. But they hold steady with just 5 first-place votes, 78 points, but hold on to number 1. So the Norfolk State Spartans continue as the number 1 ranked team in week 6. That being said, I'm going to go to you, Dave. I'm going to go to you first since you were a little concerned with the Aggies falling a couple of spots. Tell us, what do you think about the top 5?
Yeah, so the Lady Aggies, they came up this weekend and last weekend and beat College of Charleston at home, and then they just lost a real nail biter to Campbell. Had plenty of opportunities to pull it out, but they just lost a nail biter to Campbell. The CAA is a very tough conference. This is the 3rd year in a row that they've started 8-1 in this conference. So the goal is to try to continue and try to push forward. They still have a 1-game lead. I'm not concerned yet. I'm not panicking yet because because games like Charleston would be the ones that they would slip up on because that was a big game. I think they're the highest. Charleston is the highest rated team in the net. I don't necessarily agree with them falling down to 5, but I'm not going to deny number 1. Like Norfolk State is above and beyond better than any other women's basketball team in HBCU sports. They're hesitant. You're hesitant.
We're coming to you, Charles. We're coming to you. Go ahead, Dave. Finish up.
Well, and one thing I'll say, when we look at this top 5 right now, A&T is still leading the CAA and Texas Southern is as well. And right now, Bracketaji has those 2 schools playing in the play-in right now. So it'll be fascinating if it does.
That would be a good.
That'll be fascinating to watch if A&T can get the job done and win that CAA tournament where all 14 teams play. So it'll be interesting to see.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Charles, since you humbled in there, I will say this before we go to you, as Dave said. I always like to remind folks in these poll rankings, we're not taking a composite of rankings in terms of strength of schedule, conference framework, which is calculated, but it doesn't have a large percentage, and mostly it's the voters. So this is week to week.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued when folks see a team fall, whatever, after a loss. This is not a poll ranking that looks at the fact that your overall body. You lost, and you tend to lose unless other folks lose with you, you're going to fall. It doesn't mean you can't make it back up. You slip to 5 and you stay there. You win some big wins, win conference, those things.
Yeah, we buying that.
Lose, it helps you. But yeah, in this poll, you lose, you're gonna fall. Pretty general. That's just how it is in the rankings. But with that being said, let me go to you, Charles. What are your thoughts on the top 5?
I think it's a compelling argument when you take a look at Norfolk State and Texas Southern. And part of it is just the surprise of Texas Southern. And just the fact that they're undefeated in conference, and nobody could have seen that. And just watching them, they will have spells where it's like, okay, they put their foot on the gas, and they get their 6-0, 8-0 run, and they play just great defense. And that's just one of the things that I've noticed with this team. I don't have an issue. Norfolk State, I think they are the best women's basketball team, but Texas Southern, they keep scratching on that surface. They can make an argument. My only look-see here is I would have Southern in front of Jackson State. They do have a head-to-head win. That's a good win on the road for Southern against Alabama A&M. The head scratcher, of course, is Southern lost to Alcorn. That's where the 9-2 has a smudge on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what happened in this poll. Is that was a recent loss.
Yeah.
Previous poll, Southern was ahead, and then you get the loss. So oftentimes, as I said, depending on the loss, the season as it plays out, you get the 2-game matchups, you get the full spread, you get a regular season championship. Those all things matter, and then you get the tournament. With that being said, let me go to you, Mike. What are your thoughts in terms of the top 5? The women's rankings, I should say.
Yeah, I because of that Southern loss, I think you could make an argument. I agree. I was looking at that, they lost to Alcorn, which is like number 6, number 7. You could just. I also agree with David that you could also make an argument that North Carolina A&T up. Yes, they did lose to Campbell. They had just beaten Drexel, which is number 2. And, they are leading the conference. They have a over 500 record, at least to this point, in both the conference and overall. I don't think Southern does. They have a 500 record. They have a positive record in the, but not overall. So I'm looking at all these points, and I think you could rearrange that and move Southern. I would move Southern to Jackson. You could move North Carolina, but there's something to be said about leading your division as well.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a strong argument in talking about that. David, quickly, this is the end of the season for A&T. They have Northeastern, William and Mary, Delaware, UNC Wilmington, Elon, William and Mary, and UNC Wilmington to close things out. They're on the road to 4 out of those. 7 Northeastern, William and Mary, UNC, and Elon. Any of those concern you?
The only team that concerns me right now is UNC Wilmington, but we're gonna get to play those both at home and on the road. I'm not worried about Northeastern. We beat Elon by over 20 points to open up the conference play. So I think it's just more of a matter of the ladies are focused and they're zoning in. And sometimes these type of losses will do that. So I feel bad for Northeastern. I'm actually going to that game this weekend. Like I'm driving down to Boston on Friday to go to the game.
Good deal.
With a couple other Aggies, so it's going to be good to enjoy that. Northeastern's only won one game all season. They're winless in conference. I would be in a panic if we lose that game. But outside of that, the biggest concern right now left on the schedule is UNC Wilmington.
On the road?
Yeah, that's the only one I'm worried about. But I think overall, like the ladies have been playing pretty well. Like the game against Cameron was their first home loss, and they lost to Monmouth on the road. So I'm not. The key is I want them to get the regular season title, but they got to stay in the top 4 to get the bye. Like that's imperative.
I want the regular season title.
Yeah, I want it bad.
Like
I mean, that'll be first one in conference.
But in terms of a new conference and making the stadium, especially since they flirted right there, I want the conference regular season. Then we'll play for greediness. With that being said, Charles, I want to go to you. Last 7 games for Jackson State. Bethune-Cookman Thursday, FAMU on Saturday. Then they're at home to Alcorn next Saturday, the rivalry game. Then they have 2 at home with Prairie View coming to town. Texas Southern is a big matchup, obviously. Then they close things out on the road at Arkansas Pine Bluff on Thursday and on Saturday at Mississippi Valley. Other than the obvious, I guess, Texas Southern, any other of those games have you paused for a minute? Maybe not.
Yeah, the Florida swing. I mean,
okay.
Getting those going to Florida for FAMU and Bethune-Cookman, I think those would be pretty good games. But I think things look favorable for Jackson State. But obviously, that Texas Southern game, that's going to be a huge one.
I agree. With that, Mike, kind of sneak in here on this. You got Texas Southern at Southern this week, probably the big one. That's Thursday, and then at Grambling on Saturday. Back at home, they have Arkansas Pine Bluff, Mississippi Valley. Then they have 2 that we just talked about on the road at Alcorn, and then that Saturday at Jackson State, and they close with the rivalry game the following Saturday at Prairie View. I imagine the 2 games on that schedule that has your interest is the Southern and Jackson State game. Anything else? Am I correct with that?
Yep, those are the 2 that I was going to choose. And here's the deal. I believe they're on the road, right? So
yeah, Jackson on the road and Southern on the road.
Road as well. And if you look at their last,
even if you get one of those 2, you're talking about a strong way to finish the season. But if you can find a way to get 2, hell of a statement there. But
and they got to do everything on the road. I think of the remaining schedule, they got only 1 or 2 of those is at home.
Just the 2?
Yeah. So then the other 4 or 5 are on the road. So I don't think that would be a worry. They'd have a tough season, but I think I agree with you. It's Southern and Jackson State on the road.
I didn't think about that. You're right. Their last 5 out of 7 are on the road. Woo! With Southern and Jackson State, you needed that cushion. They got a 2-game cushion at 11-0. They need that. They got to find a way, obviously, to finish strong on the road, but they got to get one of those Jackson State Southern games.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out between the 2. With that, let's take our second break, come back on the other side, and we'll look at the men top 5 and see what's going on there. I can tell you this, we do have a new entrant into the top 5 on the men's side. We'll see what that looks like and get your thoughts, Charles. With that being said, with that, let's take a second break and come back.
It's like a loop machine.
looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics, there's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We have the professors in the building. That's Professor Bishop, Professor Washington, and Professor Rhodes. With that being said, let's look at the men in week number 6 in the major division poll rankings. Dropping out this week, Howard Bison. They sit at 5-2 as they continue to move around. Actually dropping out this week, I should say, was Texas Southern Tigers. They fell out of the top 4, 7-4. They had the Florida swing come to Texas, and it used to be something about the Texas swing. It hasn't really scared a lot of folks this year. It hasn't been the Texas T, if you would. This year, a lot of folks are coming in here and got their wins and handle their business. With that being said, let's look at these receiving votes. Howard Bison, they improved to 5-2. Big win after a tough slate of games, particularly 2 losses Division II. They still sit right in the mix of things in the MEAC at 5-2. They're sitting in the second spot, only 1 game behind Norfolk State that is leaving it, and they have a game remaining with Norfolk State now. It is on the road. But with that being said, you have Texas Southern. While they fell out of the poll at 7-4, they're still in the business. Auckland State Braves are quietly solidified things at 7-4 in the conference race. Delaware State Hornets at 4-3, and Tennessee State Tigers have found their way in essentially in the top 10. They've won 5 of their last 6 games. They're in the middle of the stuff in OVC, and they're playing some really good basketball, including winning their last 2. Kind of fascinating how they started in a major slump in the OVC, close losses, but they've gotten some big wins of late to put themselves with the winning record in conference play. Be interesting to see kind of how they finish the season. With that being said, another hot team, probably the hottest team outside of maybe Southern, obviously, particularly with that loss that they just had. When we look at the top 5, is a new team in the top 5. That's the Florida A&M Rattlers. Speaking of the Rattlers, their coach there, we found out today was approved for what was originally going to be a 3-year contract. We got the other 2 years approved at the board meeting today. Some people question, should he sign it? I said yes.
I'm on the side of probably not. I'm debating. I don't think you should, but I
think you sign it because there's a couple of things that go in your favor. This is a business where coaches can get perch, whatever you want to call it. And it's my understanding they only have $30K in the contract.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like ready to turn it around. I'm like, maybe he can sign it just off that.
Yeah,
and then if something comes up.
I would have gone in there and put my feet up on the table and lectured them about a 1-year contract.
Oh my God, I would. Oh.
Let's see. I don't know why y'all want to play this with the Regents or the trustees.
I mean, because it's fun. Because it's fun. Because there's a level.
We can do that.
Nah, it's the crow from it's the crow for me. It's just the crow for me at this point. It's the crow.
Well, I think the crow is the fact that they put it on the table and gave him the 2 years. He made him eat the crow pie. That happened because they signed off on it. So
the pot should have been sweeter. The pot should have been sweeter. That's all I'm gonna say. The pot should have been sweeter.
Oh yeah. With credit to Florida A&M Rattlers, and then they put a final stamp on it when they come to Texas and get the 2, particularly against Texas Southern. Prairie's been struggling, but still a solid win when you get that win. So they jump in the top 5 with 55 points, 7-4, and they're rolling. At number 4 is Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman is quietly, I don't know if that makes sense to you. They're sitting at 8-3. 70 points.
Yeah.
And they the truth.
Yeah, and they play some good basketball. They took care of business against Texas Southern. A huge win anytime you still come into Houston and got it done, as Texas Southern loses 2 close games at home. Brings to number 3, Jackson State Tigers. They're pretty solid too, quietly getting it done. A lot of folks still doubting over there, but what they're doing on the court, is solid. They're 8-3. They even got a first place vote, 86 points. They move up a spot from number 4 last week, so Jackson State Tigers are squarely in the mix. Norfolk State Spartans 6-1 didn't play this week with the schedule and teams allotted. They have 4 first place votes, 103. You have a program when you don't necessarily have your strongest teams and you're still leading the conference with a win, a game, but actually it's 2 because the second place team is Howard, who you beat. You have number 1 Southern Jaguars. Guess what? The Wicked Witch has been knocked on the butt. It's not dead, but they certainly have been knocked down a little bit where they had their first loss on the road at Alabama State. They've won all these close games. This one they got nipped by 1. Still playing some solid basketball no matter what you say. Overall winning record, they're at 10-1, 6 first place votes, 104 points. Remain at number 1 even though they had that loss. It'll be interesting to see how they move forward. And the fact that they lost did not hurt them in terms of following the rankings. A lot of that, I think, is the fact that Norfolk State did not play. It'd been interesting if Norfolk played, got a victory. Would that have been enough? But they lose the first place vote as they move around. With that being said, let me go up and down the dial as you would. Big Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of the top 5 this week? FAMU, as I put on it, are in the mix. What are your thoughts in terms of what takes place this week?
Nothing up with Southern. They are still Southern despite their loss. What was it? Alabama State, I think.
Yep, Alabama State on the road.
The road, I still think they are still playing Southern Jaguar ball. They are looking good. They're not the sexiest thing, but they're still playing the ball. They had a loss. I still think they're number 1. I still think Norfolk State, to be honest, they're still a little bit shaky. They're number 1. They lead the MEAC, but some of their wins have been it's kind of close with them. So I agree. They had that loss a couple of games ago against Morgan. So Morgan's a tough team. Don't get me wrong. So nothing wrong, Doc, with the top. I'd say 3. Bethune is coming strong. You could argue they could actually be a number 3. FAM, I don't know about FAM.
Don't do that.
Why?
FAMU has won 6 out of the last 7.
Yeah, no. Don't do that. I know
they got to win. Let me point this out since he goes there. They got to win
about FAM.
on the road at Jackson State. That's a top 5 team.
They do.
They do have the loss to Bethune-Cookman at home. They got a win over Texas Southern. That's still in the top 10. They got a win over Alcorn, coming back by 20 points on the road. That's in the top 10. Why you don't believe in FAMU, Mike?
They have a loss to Alabama State. They have a loss to Southern. They have a loss to Grambling.
Who doesn't have a loss to Southern?
Who doesn't? I say Grambling. I'm sorry, Grambling.
All right, you said Southern, but I know you meant Grambling. All right, I'll take that. Go ahead.
So I don't know. I'm not convinced that I'm ready to drink the FAMU orange and green Kool-Aid just yet.
Man, Brian,
they haven't won this many conference games in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's and now and you consider that Coach Crary walked in on a 1-year deal, had to work at will in essence for a portion of this time because he didn't have a contract at the beginning when they first announced it.
Right.
And he got these guys playing with this team. It gives me faith in A&T at some point. But this is beautiful to see. Because he can coach.
I agree. I like it. Yeah,
I want to hear this rhetoric.
You're one good coach away to having a team. You're right.
I want to hear this rhetoric when they play when they got to go to Alabama and they play Alabama State, Alabama A&M. Can they keep? I need a few more data points to call them a solid number 5.
Damn.
I mean, he's 5th.
Well,
go ahead, Charles.
It's going to be very interesting because this weekend we got a 3 versus 5 matchup with Jackson State going to FAM, and then Monday night playing Bethune-Cookman. So that's going to be 3 versus 4. Very interesting matchup going into this weekend. But all this talk about FAM, let me tell you something about Bethune-Cookman. They've won 6 out of their last 8. They've won 4 in a row. And get this, Doc. They're doing it without Brian Freeman, who at the time was the 3rd leading scorer in the SWAC. They're doing it without a young man who is the leading rebounder in the SWAC.
That's true.
And let me tell you something. I have watched them multiple times get down by double digits during the course of a game, and they walk teams back in. And there's something scary about teams like that. Because they never get too high, never get too low. They just continue to keep playing downhill, and rebounding the basketball, and then they play tough down the stretch. So it's very interesting to watch a team like that. They lost at Jackson State, but they were down by as much as 17, and all of a sudden in the last few minutes of the game, we're talking about a possession or 2. So what happened
to them against Alcorn State?
Yeah,
but I'm saying they over the last 4 games, they are a scary team to deal with, and like I said, they've been doing it without some missing personnel, and that's what makes them.
But seeing things like that shows the parity in the conference too. Seeing things like that shows parity in the conference, so it's not a bad thing to see when you see what happens here, what happens there. If you got a lot of teams beating each other up, that's not a bad thing because that's going to make the tournament chaotic, and you guys know how I feel about chaos.
I agree.
Chaos, I see a chaos coming. I see chaos coming in.
And to your point, Charles, as we close the segment, you have Alcorn State essentially at 8. So that means you got 8 versus.
Yeah.
And 10 teams get in this year, right? There's 10 SWAC teams this year, right?
Yes, 10 teams.
Oh, yeah. It's chaos. Chaos Incorporated.
Essentially, unless Valley somehow gets higher, even Pine Bluff, essentially we've got the top 10 teams.
Yeah.
Pine Bluff has 1 win. Valley has none, and you talking about a team that's falling apart. Alcorn beat Valley Jackson State on Saturday beat Valley by 48. Yeah. And on Monday, Alcorn State beat them by 47. So they've lost by average of 47.5 points. With that, tough way to end the segment, but we're going to leave it right there. We'll come back in our last segment, give you additional thoughts on talking a little bit about some key games coming up this weekend. Maybe what you expect down the stretch, and then we'll call it a show. We'll be right back on the other side.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeaversVoice.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit HBCUPrideJoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles, Mike, and David in our last segment. Well, let's get into some of the talk here. Let's get some of these matchups and see what your thoughts are Saturday. We'll start with the SWAC. You can go men's or women's and tell me what has your interest. We're going to start with you, Charles. We have in the SWAC, Texas Southern at Grambling on Saturday. You have Alcorn at Bethune-Cookman. You have Prairie View at Southern, Jackson State at FAMU, Alabama State at Pine Bluff, Alabama A&M at Mississippi Valley. These are double headers for your men's and women's game. So you have those matchups. Obviously on Monday for the men, you have Prairie View at Grambling, Alabama State at Valley, Jackson State at Bethune-Cookman, Alcorn State at FAMU, Alabama A&M at Pine Bluff, Texas Southern on Southern for the women. Those games are on Thursday, those same matchups. If you look at the MEAC, if you would, these are some of your key matchups on MEAC on Saturday. Morgan State at South Carolina State, Norfolk State at Maryland Eastern Shore, Howard at Delaware State, Coppin State at Central on Monday. Yeah, Morgan State at Central, Maryland Eastern Shore at Howard, Delaware State at Norfolk State, Coppin State at South Carolina State. Those are both double headers, men's and women's. And so you have some love there. On the coastal side, Thursday, you have A&T at Elon, Drexel at Hampton. Obviously, that's Friday and Sunday for the women, so think about those matchups. In terms of the coastal, in OVC, told you a little bit about Tennessee State. They kind of bounce back. It'd be interesting to see, can they continue to make a move. On Thursday, they have Tennessee State. They're on the road at Eastern Illinois. Then Saturday, they're on the road at SIUE, Southern Illinois, Evansville. With that being said, of those HBCU Division I games, what has your interest and why this week?
On the MEAC side, Delaware State hosting Howard on Saturday. That's intriguing. Delaware State, they've won 4 in a row, and then they go on the road to take on Norfolk State on Monday on ESPN. So that I'll definitely have an eye on that. Taking a look at the SWAC, this is a big weekend for Texas Southern men's basketball. Going to Louisiana, taking on Grambling on Saturday. Grambling has won 2 in a row on the road. That turned my head in terms of winning at Alabama State and winning at Alabama A&M. And then there's a huge Monday night with Texas Southern taking on Southern down there in Baton Rouge. And then, as mentioned, Jackson State on the road this weekend, both games, men and women. Florida A&M on Saturday night. So that's going to be very intriguing. And then Jackson State has another Donnybrook on the men's side taking on Bethune-Cookman Monday night. So you've got some good ones this weekend.
Good stuff. When you talked about Delaware State, that's 3 straight conference games, Maryland, Eastern Shore, Coppin State, and Morgan State, that they just eked out a victory 84-82. So you're right. They're hot. Be interesting to see. Big one against Delaware State. Just try to find a way to stay in the mix. Can they mess it up for Howard, who has that game at the end of the season with Norfolk State if they can keep pace? So you're right. Big matchup this weekend.
And then the question, can Texas Southern right the ship? I mean, they've lost 3 games now, and it's come down to possession and turnovers at critical moments. So going to Grambling this weekend, that's going to be huge to see if they can get back on a winning track.
The other thing about Texas Southern, can they pull that magic again? Can they get healthy? Remember this a couple of years ago, they were 8th seed and found a way to pull it off. Part of that was they got healthy in the tournament. People didn't realize it. They were healthy of the season. It looks like they've hit the bug again. Can they make it work? With that being said, David. Yeah, exactly. David, what are your thoughts in terms of those games out there? What kind of catches your interest as we?
Well, two games catch my eye. South Carolina State and Morgan State. And you talk about 2, 4, and 3 teams in the MEAC. Morgan State beating Norfolk early in the season, so I'm kind of fascinated to see. And South Carolina State had a pretty strong run at the beginning of conference play as well, so I'm kind of curious to see if one of those teams will break through. And from an A&T perspective, I'm just fishing for a conference win right now. With the remaining schedules, I think the best shots are Elon this weekend and Stony Brook later. So I'm just right now fishing for the men to finally get a conference win. They've been playing much better since the 3 players have been suspended, believe it or not. They lost a close one to Charleston, and they lost a close one to Campbell last night on CBS. So we'll see how it goes with what's going on in Aggieland. But, I'm just fishing for a conference win right now.
Yeah, I'm fascinated with South Carolina State. They are amazing to me, trying to figure out what's going on there. I told you about Tennessee State. They have my eyes. They took a dip, but it looks like they're right at the ship. Can they push forward and get it done? That said, Mike, give us your final thoughts there on what matchups has your.
Yeah, I guess I gotta raise my eyebrows in the MEAC at the women's. So if I think Howard, there's 6-1.
Yes.
So they got matchups against Delaware State, Maryland Eastern. That could be competitive. I'm the most competitive that is this whole business about Fort A&M, Bethune-Cookman, and who they play. Bethune, who they. Their first opponent is Alcorn State, then Jackson State. But then if you look at who Jackson State, FAMU plays, and FAMU has a they have a stretch where they have to go through basically Jackson State and Alcorn State. So that whole dynamic to me is very interesting. I think that'll answer a few questions on a few more. And put a few more data points on the board if you look through this weekend with that whole mix-up.
Yeah, going down the stretch, man, it starts to get in that sprint before you really do the sprint in the tournament. So I'm fascinated. I think you pointed out really well, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. Thank you to the listeners of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta, Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, come from Inside the Lab and the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and David Rhodes. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we'll be back on Thursday. We will have an interview with the ADs. That's Dr. Paul Bryan at Alabama A&M University and Dr. Mickey Allen of Tennessee State, talking about the series classic they had. With those 2 teams being on I-65, it'll be fascinating to see how they came together and get some information of what that looks like. So hopefully you all look forward to that, as we will also be covering and checking out, and some of us might be even calling, if you would, the Cactus Jack Classic that will be aired on in video out there for our very own Black College Sports Network. So we're excited about that coming forward. With that being said, call it the show. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Facebook, Instagram. That's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on Facebook and YouTube. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Mike?
Lecture.
David?
Dismissed.